I know I'm a little late. Got to get a lot of clips together. Got to make sure it's all concise and ready to go. And some new ways of doing it here and there as we continue to refine Illinois in Focus Daily. Good morning. I'm Greg Bishop on this Wednesday, September 3rd, 2025. Can't believe we are already into September. Before we know it, it's going to be the end of October. Then we'll be talking about what happened in fall veto session. But that's not until next month. We got plenty to do this month. So hopefully you are tuned in and staying informed. Go to thecentersquare.com. It's where you can find the headlines that we discuss here with Illinois in Focus, but it's also where you can sign up for the newsletter to get those headlines in your inbox. But you can also find out beyond Illinois what's going on in other states and at Washington, D.C., so go check that out at thecentersquare.com. All right, today what we're going to be doing is hearing from a Comptroller candidate. Maybe there's a chance to talk with a linguist or something about, the difference between Comptroller and Comptroller, but it's spelled the same. Neither here nor there. But chatted with Stephanie Kifowit, a Democratic state representative looking to take the Comptroller position after Susana Mendoza said that she's not running for another term as Illinois Comptroller. So I'll share with you some of her background, chatted with her yesterday, and what she says she's going to bring to the table for the possibility of taking the Comptroller's office, but of course you got a primary to get through, and we'll see what happens there. But first, we're going to hear the back and forth between President Donald Trump and Governor J.B. Pritzker, including some Illinois Freedom Caucus members, Chicago Flips Red, and more about the use of the federal government's forces, be it FBI, ICE, ATF, or National Guard, in helping with public safety in the city of Chicago. So we'll do that next here with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Wake up with us each and every weekday morning for Illinois in Focus Daily, only with the Center Square.
I didn't say when, but the answer is, look, Chicago's very interesting because I watched Pritzker get up and say we don't need help, we're safe. But 2 weeks ago, they had 6 people murdered, and they had 24 people hit by bullets.
It's President Donald Trump talking about Chicago's crime and how he would have respect for Governor J.B. Pritzker if he was to pick up the phone and call the president. Of course, Governor Pritzker responding. That's what we're getting to here with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and wake up with Illinois in Focus Daily each and every weekday morning. Go live about 8 o'clock this morning. I was a few minutes late, so I appreciate those who do tune in live to the live chat, which is always active. You guys are always on me. That's good. So let's get right to it. All right. So yesterday you had President Donald Trump announcing some new movements to bring a military base to a different state, and then all of a sudden he takes questions from the media. One of the questions was, do you plan on going into Chicago? And here he is essentially reiterating what he's said in the past, but making it, I guess, a little bit more clear what he's looking to do.
I didn't say when, but the answer is, look, Chicago's very interesting because I watched Pritzker get up and say we don't need help, we're safe. But 2 weeks ago, they had 6 people murdered, and they had 24 people hit by bullets. Last week, as you know, it was 7 people, 24 people hit, and 7 people died. And then over the last 2 days, that was the crown jewel. They had, I guess, 9 or 10 killed, and 50 hit with bullets. And you have this governor get up, who's a terrible governor. Probably he and Gavin Newsom would be probably the two worst and most naive. They're naive. Either they're naive or they're very untruthful. And he'll say, we don't want any protection. We don't need. So in the last 3 weeks, he's lost almost 20 people killed. There's no place in the world, including you can go to Afghanistan, you can go to places that you would think of. They don't even come close to this. Chicago is a hellhole right now. And I would love to have Governor Pritzker call me. I'd gain respect for him and say, we do have a problem, and we'd love you to send in the troops, because you know what? The people, they have to be protected.
First,
you've got Governor Pritzker, who held a news conference literally minutes after Trump got done with his news conference there, and Pritzker responded directly to the president to that suggestion that he would have some respect for Pritzker if Pritzker picked up the phone and asked for assistance to help with what Trump characterized as out-of-control violence.
First, I want to address the president's unhinged remarks a few minutes ago, begging me to call him. No, I will not call the president asking him to send troops to Chicago. I've made that clear already. I refuse to play a reality game show with Donald Trump again. What I want are the federal dollars that have been promised to Illinois and Chicago for violence prevention programs that have proven to work. That is money that Illinois taxpayers send to the federal government, and it's an insult to any and every citizen to suggest that any governor should have to beg the president of any political party for resources owed their people.
They've abandoned the victims, abandoned the police, and abandoned the people of Chicago, and many of the people in our districts as well. Just think about it for a minute, what these Democrats really stand for. They're the ones who have allowed illegal immigrant criminals into our communities. They're the ones that want to release people from jail over and over again. They're the ones that restrict Second Amendment rights, but won't keep people who attacked innocent civilians behind bars. It's the Democrats who hate law and order. President Trump, the Illinois Freedom Caucus, Republicans understand that law and order is the pillar of the free world. Without safe streets, there is no prosperity, there is no opportunity, and there is no justice.
So that's, again, you got Governor Pritzker responding to Trump, and then yesterday you had the Illinois Freedom Caucus hold a news conference with State Senator Andrew Chesney saying that Democrats have abandoned Chicago residents who are concerned about public safety. Chicago Red was also Flip Chicago Red was it Chicago Flips Red? There's multiple organizations, and I'm sure they're going to come together eventually, especially heading into an election year in 2026, where you've got a growing contingent of people wanting Chicago to go Republican. So Chicago Flips Red was part of the Illinois Freedom Caucus event yesterday, a news conference, and Zoe Lee, one of the founders, said that weakened violence is a perfect reason why there needs to be recognition from Illinois leaders that they need assistance to get the crime under control.
As you see, it was 54 people that were shot, 8 people died. And one of the things that really bothers me is that it was 6 women that were shot and killed. One was ambushed by 5 gunmen, 1 woman, another one were just fights, catty fights, having guns, shooting each other. And I watched our leaders, the Democratic leaders here, protest Donald Trump for being a dictator. So on top of the crime that we're already dealing with, the poverty crimes that the Democratic Party has made in our communities, we're dealing with illegal alien criminals, we're dealing with the cartel, we're dealing with sex trafficking, drug trafficking, we're dealing with human trafficking, and we need help. We need the federal government to intervene. I've been saying this for 2 years. Danielle has been saying this, and other Republican leaders have been saying this.
And again, that's Zoe Lee from Chicago Flips Red. Danielle Carter Walters was also there, and she said that while a lot of talk about, especially from the governor, saying we need those federal funds, those taxpayer dollars for violence intervention programs, Danielle's saying that there needs to be an audit of what was already spent.
And we are calling for President Trump to come in and also give us a forensic audit on all these departments.
Crime prevention
Money, Erica, because we know this, with all this crime that's going on, we know the money is not being spent towards the crime prevention, we are also down 2,000 officers. And
that's something else that is, obviously going to be an issue of discussion is law enforcement, the levels of law enforcement, more FBI, more federal agents, ATF, these types of, the sister agencies that can help with some domestic law enforcement legally. But when you start talking about the National Guard, that's where Governor Pritzker is suggesting it's time to stand up and protest. President Donald Trump and saying we don't want the Guard to come to Illinois.
Guess what? People ought to be speaking out about what this administration is doing. I'm doing it from this podium, but people can go protest. People are holding up signs on street corners with their friends to protest. There are thousands of people, indeed millions of people, that showed up for No King's Day. I'm encouraging people to peacefully, have said that all along, megaphones, microphones, go to the ballot box. Those are all the things that I said. Let's be clear. And to the extent that people want to protest, they have that First Amendment right to do so. All I'm saying, as I said back then, is that you ought to do it peacefully and that you ought to make your voices heard. Thank you.
So we've also got what could happen legally. Now, you heard Trump. He said, we're going in. I just didn't say when. We've heard Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, suggest that it could be as early as this coming Friday. And you've got a variety of other voices that the governor laid out that they're getting intel from, that they're staging at the Great Lakes Naval Station to have ICE officers come in. And could it look like what happened in L.A. with National Guard protecting ICE assets amid potential protests that could get out of hand? And if local law enforcement is going to be involved, how are they going to be involved? Johnson has issued an executive order to restrict Chicago police from how they interact with federal employees, I guess. But is there lawsuit potential here? Governor J.B. Pritzker discussed this, but also Attorney General Kwame Raoul discussed this as well. Can they preemptively sue to try to keep the Trump administration from doing what the Trump administration says they're going to do, just not sure when it's actually going to happen?
Well, there's no such thing as a preemptive lawsuit. If something occurs that trips the wire that allows us to go into court, and I'll just look at the Attorney General when I say this to get his confirmation, we absolutely will go into court, but that hasn't occurred yet.
Of course, that wasn't.
We're going in. It's not enough. No, we don't know this particular factual basis that he would be suggesting to federalize the Guard, and so we have to be able to respond to facts, not predicting what he's going to be relying upon and what they're going to be doing specifically.
So clearly, they can't act in the courts until an action is taken by Trump. And then once there's obviously some action they feel goes over the line, then they're going to file a lawsuit. They just can't preemptively do that. Some of the legislative back and forth here. Talked with State Representative Stephanie Kifowit, who's a veteran of the U.S. military, and she is a Democrat from Oswego. She said that she kind of sees it on both sides, but is cautious about what's happening on the ground.
Let's be honest. Let's be honest, Greg. We are looking at the city of Chicago, which has a population of 3 million people. So the statistics that you just said, the individuals that got wounded and shot, it's very, very, it's a serious situation. Don't get me wrong. But when we look at the statistics, the crime rate in Chicago is much less than some of the crime rate in other parts of the state, other parts of the states that are actually under Republican governance. So if we're gonna talk about stats, we need to talk about stats in an equal discussion. And the crime rate in Chicago is lower than a lot of other significant cities.
And that was in response to me kind of sharing what President Trump shared from over the weekend. And then when you work in a couple of weeks worth, you've got, 20 people killed and 100 that have been shot. So how do you respond to that? That sounds bad. She says you got to look at crime rates. And if that's the case, even though Chicago has the most total number of homicides of all cities, when you look at the crime rate, it provides a different picture. And here's Kifowit talking more about that.
We got to compare apples to apples. A city of 3 million people and with a decline, working to decline our crime rate, I think needs to be looked at positively if our crime's going down. And I do believe that local law enforcement is the expert in addressing local crime, not National Guardsmen from outside of Illinois or those that are currently serving in the military.
And Republican State Representative Martin McLaughlin, he shared that he's taken a different perspective, that Illinois needs help. Chicago needs help.
I have heard the word threat from the media. It's a threat coming from Washington, a threat. I'm trying to understand why an American in uniform standing on a street corner trying to protect other Americans is a threat to anyone. I think it is a threat to those that have failed. And the worst thing that they're worried about is it'll have an immediate success and it'll be a mark against their poor efforts into public safety.
What's the solution? Is it having federal law enforcement come and assist Chicago? Is it having more money go out for violence intervention funds that could go to nonprofits to help violence interrupters take to the streets? Is that the answer? Or maybe Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson has the solution. He proposed something that he says the president really should be focusing on instead of threatening to send in the National Guard to help curb crime.
No matter how much work we do or how hard we work, whether it's expanding our detectives bureau, investing in community violence intervention, and addressing the root causes of crime, none of it will ever be enough until the president decides to end the mass trafficking of guns in our city. For every gun that the Chicago Police Department fights to get off the streets, 2 or 3 more new guns come into our city. Chicago will continue to have a violence problem as long as red states continue to have a gun problem. Shootings will continue as long as this presidential administration continues to put politics over people.
So it's the guns that's the problem, according to Johnson, and something that needs to be addressed. That was just some of the back and forth on all sides of this over the past 24 hours. And I think that's why you wake up with us here for Illinois in Focus Daily. Get news in your inbox each weekday morning. Go to thecentersquare.com. Again, thecentersquare.com. Find Illinois, get the newsletter, and be here with us for Illinois in Focus Daily each and every weekday morning here on YouTube. Stand by. We're We're still months away from the March primary, but there's going to be plenty of opportunity to talk with candidates who are vying to get their party's nomination for various offices, including statewide offices like Comptroller. Welcome in. It's Illinois in Focus Daily with the Center Square. I'm Greg Bishop with you each and every weekday morning. And you can join us in the live chat. Around 8 o'clock, we go live and give you a couple of different segments to keep you plugged into what's going on here in the land of Lincoln. Now, the March 17th primary months away. We still don't even know who is going to be who on the ballot officially, but we've got lots of names that have tossed out there. They're out there gathering signatures for their nominating petitions. They have to have those in by early November, and then there will be a process of all of the, objections that'll happen within a week, and then we'll get the ballot. For the March primary, this is for the parties in Illinois to determine who they want their candidates to be. And then you get into the November election where it'll be, Republican versus Democrat versus Independent. How many different names are going to be on the ballot for these various races? Not sure, but it's all up and down the ticket. You got state house races, state senate races in individual districts. You've got the statewide candidates, U.S. Senate for Durbin's seat. Governor is up for election, as is treasurer, comptroller, attorney general, and so on. One race that we're going to hear from today is Comptroller and State Representative Stephanie Kifowit, a Democrat who's tossed her name into the ring after Democratic State Comptroller Susana Mendoza announced she's not seeking another term as Illinois Comptroller. So I connected with Kifowit yesterday, and she shared with us some of her background and why she feels she's qualified for the job.
And I spent a lot of time with my grandparents. My grandfather came here as an immigrant from Poland when he was 17, and my grandmother grew up so poor that her feet were permanently disfigured because she never had shoes that fit her. So they pretty much taught me the value of hard work and fiscal responsibility. And this is a struggle that's really, that hits really everyday people. And, I value hard work and fiscal responsibility. And, my mom went to food pantries when times were tough and relied on services in the community when times were tight. And, the budget year, the budget impasse years hit families like my families back in the day so hard. And none of the other candidates have that experience of actually serving in the legislature during that time. And I think that brings really the experience level that this job deserves and that this job demands to a higher level when you go through that. As you know, I served in the Marine Corps. I signed up when I was 17, and then I went and took my very first airplane ride to Parris Island boot camp, actually. It always strikes me because I've been on a lot of airplanes since, but very first ride, my parents never had the money to fly anywhere. And so, that experience, that military experience, being elected at the Aurora City Council member and serving there for 9.5 years. City of Aurora has a budget of, $500-600 million. It's the largest city outside of Chicago. And then, I was a registered financial advisor. The Comptroller sits on the Illinois State Investment Board for the pensions. And I've been a state representative now since 2013. So during that time, I've been a fiscal hawk, not always going in the same direction as everybody else, been pretty independent in the General Assembly. I've been chair and vice chair of General Services Appropriations, chair of state government, chair of the pension committees. I've been on the budget working group during the Runner years through the impasse, and then currently now. And, that experience is just, it's invaluable. It's one thing to just vote for a budget. It's an entirely different aspect to actually be working on the budget line item like I have. I've also worked very closely with Susana Mendoza in passing legislation. Part of her job is to work and identify places of legislation that needs to be done in order for the state to be more effective and more responsive. And so I was working on legislation for the Budget Stabilization Act, the Pension Stabilization Act, making sure our rainy day fund got funded the way it should be. And so that's another key component of experience that I bring to the table that the other individuals in this race just don't have. And then finally, that one of the things that the controller is very important about is fighting to make sure that the people that work hard in Illinois are paid prevailing wage. I was a chief co-sponsor of the bill about 2 weeks ago that the governor signed to ensure that prevailing wage is paid throughout the whole state. And also as the chief co-sponsor on the bill to provide OSHA requirements throughout the whole state. So not only do I talk about the bills, but I also put my name on the bills to help working men and women make sure that they are being taken care of in the state as well.
And again, sharing some of the conversation I had with Stephanie Kifowit, Democrat state representative from Oswego, who's running for the statewide office of Illinois Comptroller. Now, she is just one name that has tossed their hat in the ring. You've also got another Democrat, Margaret Croak, state representative as well, putting their hat in the ring. So that's just the Democrat election that's going to happen March 17th. Who's going to be some of the candidates on the Republican side? We'll see a lot more clarity as to who's who going to possibly be on the ballot when they have to file their petitions to get on the ballot, and that's going to be late October. We'll be watching that. But when I talked with Comptroller Susana Mendoza last month, gosh, I can't believe it's already September, at the Illinois State Fair during Democrat Day, I asked Comptroller Susana Mendoza what kinds of things she says should be the qualifications for whoever does end up becoming the Illinois Comptroller.
Someone who's fiscally responsible, obviously, who would follow in my footsteps of fiscal discipline being number one, an independent voice, someone who will chart their own course and realize that they don't work for any elected official, they work for the people of the state of Illinois. And also someone who understands that Illinois has 102 amazing counties, and each and every one of them is just as important as the next. I've really taken a lot of pride in really loving Illinois and learning every aspect of Illinois. And I think that the voters in Illinois know that, and they know it's sincere. And so whoever takes my spot, I hope they look at the bar that I've set and try to meet it and hopefully exceed it, but they're going to have a tough time doing that.
Are you going to endorse anybody?
I don't know yet. We'll see, but I'm looking to see what these candidates put forth, but I'll tell you that I'm very impressed by one in particular, but stay tuned. Stay tuned. Yeah.
So we'll be staying tuned to see if Comptroller Mendoza comes out and endorses either Croak or Kifowit, or who knows, there might be another Democrat that comes up and shows that they're running as well. Again, we won't really know who's going to be on the ballot for the primary until sometime early November. But Kifowit, I asked what sets her apart from others that might be running for this office.
Current controller has done a great job with that. And transparency is always top of my list. Like I said, going way back to my first committee was the Committee on Government Transparency and Accountability. And so I will continue that and strive even further to make sure things are more transparent, easily to search, easily to utilize, so that people can find the information where they're going to be. For your information, the state controller's office processes about 16 million transactions a year. That's a lot of transactions. And so that's why this job needs to be with somebody with experience, proven experience. I've had 20 years of government finance experience, along with being a registered financial advisor. And so definitely that I will make sure, without doubt, that we are always holding fast to integrity, holding fast to transparency, and really looking out for the taxpayers of Illinois. Because like you just said, transparency is a way to look out for the taxpayers of Illinois, and that's what I intend to do.
Something else that's a perennial, even though it's not annual, it's every 4 years, a regular question in the race for comptroller, and as long as I've covered state government, is do we need a comptroller and treasurer? Do we need those two fiscal jobs? Comptroller cuts the checks. If you're a vendor for the state of Illinois and you get paid, comptroller's cutting you a check. If you're a state employee, the comptroller's cutting you a check. The treasurer is more managing investment income. I mean, Treasurer Michael Frericks, Democrat, statewide office there, he announced recently they made like $1.5 billion off of investments that he manages. So he says that's $1.5 billion in taxes that don't need to go up because of the investments that he manages for the state of Illinois. So do we need to have both the comptroller and the treasurer, or could there be some savings there? Again, a question that is every 4 years whenever a comptroller race comes up. Here's Stephanie Kifowit vying for the Democrats' nomination.
Well, years ago, there was a resolution, and I can find the number for you, about merging the two. I think that's something that we need to look into to save some money and to actually look at the inherent benefits of it. And, I've always been one as a fiscal hawk to look at saving even a penny. So all the things we can do through transparency and efficiencies. In fact, I believe my first committee was like government transparency and efficiency. I was the chair of. So any efficiencies we can identify, I will certainly consider. Yes.
Something else that need to consider is audits. We've had untimely audits, right? Audits that are way late. More than 2 years have passed since we knew what happened with the fiscal year of 2023, and we don't have that audit. Well, we just got it, last week or something. But it's still, we don't know what we spent more than a year ago in the state of Illinois because it takes so long. Comptroller Mendoza's talked with us before saying that she has worked with the governor's office and the auditor general to speed things up, and she hopes that fiscal year 25 that'll happen. Kifowit saying that if she to get in the office, would help foster that even further.
Overall transparency is key. It is top of my agenda to make sure that the taxpayers know exactly where their dollars are going, to look out for them as the taxpayers, and of course, auditing needs to be done, and getting everybody on the same page is really important. As you said, it's working with the governor's office, it's working with the other departments, it's working with the auditor. All these are all individuals I have worked with for over a decade that I can easily come in and continue her hard work on getting them together, getting the audits together, and certainly making sure that the not only the office is accountable, but the whole state of Illinois is accountable to the taxpayers.
And now some final words from comptroller candidate Stephanie Kifowit, a Democrat state representative. She says that she's one with experience. She's got the game plan to win. But again, we've got to get through a March primary, and she's got an opponent, possibly with Margaret Croak, another state representative from the Chicagoland area.
I have a large coalition and a path to victory we're confident in. And, at the end of the day, I just want to put out there that this is not a stepping stone for me. It's a position that I care very deeply about. The state of Illinois, I care very deeply about. I served my country, went halfway around the world. I was deployed to Okinawa, Japan, and then when I was done, I came right back here to Illinois. So I've seen firsthand the struggles families are going through. And I saw that with an inexperienced controller under the Rana years. And, I bring, again, over 20 years of experience to the position, and I think that I will fight for the individuals and fight for the taxpayers and hold them accountable, and I have a strong strength of character and my military background to prove it.
So, comptroller candidate Stephanie Kifowit got a March 17th primary. We'll see if we can connect with Margaret Croak. We'll find out who the Republicans are, if there's going to be a Republican primary for comptroller, or if there's only going to be one person running for the Republicans. What kind of independent candidates are there going to be? We won't know that until, next year for the non-established parties to get onto the Illinois primary or the Illinois general election ballot. They don't have a primary like the Republicans and Democrats. So there's going to be lots for us to talk about with a whole host of different parties and candidates and positions and elections. And wake up with us each and every weekday morning here. It is Illinois in Focus Daily, right here with the Center Square. All right, that's all I got for you. A little bit of a late start this morning. I apologize, but hopefully you guys were informed with the latest debates around whether or not the National Guard is going to be used to help with law enforcement, but also just seeing what some of the discussions are like when it comes to other statewide offices. We hear a lot from the governor. We hear a lot from Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson. But what about like comptroller, treasurer, and such? So obviously, we'll do what we can to keep you posted on all of that. But get the headlines in your inbox at thecentersquare.com. Enjoy your Wednesday. We'll be back at it tomorrow here for more Illinois in Focus Daily.